Today, let's talk about the difference or resistance versus flow, a topic that has come up in my conversations with my clients so many times that I figure it's time we actually set out to talk about it here on this channel as well. So, where do we actually start? I always start with the idea that really we have two voices, two entities within us. On the one hand, we have our unconscious mind. Think about it as your soul. And the soul knows everything about you, really everything that you've done before you came on this human journey, and also kind of what you're going to do later on. So the soul knows everything about you and it knows what you came here to do. And so it always tries to guide you on that next step forward. It kind of maybe sits on your shoulder and says, oh, this is so exciting. Do this or do that. How about this? How about that? It all the times gives you this feeling of knowing what it is that you need to do or what it is that you might want to explore moving forward. On the other side, we have our conscious mind. This is the realm of our thinking, everything that is logical and practical and realistic and makes sense, and everything that has to be linear. So this has to happen first, and then this, and this. It's that kind of thing. The conscious mind is also the house of the infamous negative voice. Call it the ego, if that makes more sense to you. The negative voice has only one job, and that is for you to do today exactly what you've done yesterday so that it can protect you and preserve you. Now, it knows that it can't really fight or it hasn't got any chance standing opposite the mighty soul. So what it does to make sure that you always stay in your little comfort zone is to tell you the scariest lies that it can come up with. And that is always something like, you're not good enough, you're going to fail, never going to work out. If it was a good idea, someone else would have done it already. Who do you think you are? What will they say? And so on and so on and so on. The lies always come in exact relationship with your own fears, with your own trauma, with your own past experiences. And so what happens to most of us is that we want to do something, and now the fear comes up, and we say, I don't really want to do it anyway, or didn't really want to do it. I'll do it some other time. Procrastination sometimes come in, and so on. So now, how do we apply it onto our day-to-day situation? It's basically we want to do something. The soul comes in, hey, idea, how about this? Fear comes up saying, oh, of course not. That's too dangerous. We can't do it. We're going to fail. It's going to be awful. And now we're in dilemma. We're in conflict. We're like, okay, so do I listen to this voice or do I listen to that voice? And because the soul, the unconscious mind, is so subtle and so quiet, most of the time what happens is that we listen to the negative voice and the fears and the lies and this feeling of, oh my God, if I do this, this horrible, horrible thing is going to happen. So let's talk as an example about people pleasing. People pleasing, as we already know, it sounds very nice and lovely, but actually it's really not. And people who do people pleasing, a lot of the time it's because they are fearing that if they don't do that, something bad will happen. So, maybe a friend said, hey, could you do me a favor? And I'm like, No, actually, it's miles out of my way. It's going to take me a long time. It's going to maybe cost me some money. You could do it in exactly the same way, right? But because maybe I've done this before, it's kind of convenient that they can ask me again and I would say yes. So the reason why I would say yes is something like, well, if I say no, maybe this person won't be my friend again. Or maybe because I'm saying no, I will miss out on some bigger opportunity. Or maybe, it will show that actually I'm not worth being friends with. Something like that. So the fear of what might happen is the driver in people pleasers case to say, yes, I'll do it. Or sometimes they even volunteer for things because exactly it's always the same thing. It's about that thought. If I don't do it, something bad will happen. Now, how does that connect to the idea or the topic of conversation about resistance versus flow? So this is really about that internal conversation that we have with ourselves when we feel that we ought to do something that actually doesn't really align with who we are and what we want to do. And so I'll just give you a very quick example that I noticed just yesterday. I ordered something on Etsy, and I was relatively pleased with the with whatever came. But the person um, who was doing the job, he then sent me a message and said, thank you for your order, blah blah blah. Please make sure to leave me a five-star review. And I was like, surely it's my decision what I need to do, right? But for them not to trust in their work enough so that I would probably leave them a five-star review meant that they went out of their way to make sure that something will happen and actually left the whole thing kind of with a bad taste. Because probably I would have left five-star reviews, but because he asked that, I'm like, not going to happen now. And all of a sudden, there's resistance. So flow is very much about trusting, but also going back into simplicity. There's no need to bring in things that are, more challenging and fear-based. So, a lot of the time people might say, well, really, what is flow? Flow, like I said, okay, it's simplicity and going back to how you feel right. So if I want to do something and immediately I start thinking about all the negative things that might come or how this is not going to work out and all of that, now I'm in resistance and I'm in fear. But when I'm in flow, I'm like, what feels right to me? What do I want to do? Can I actually stand in my powers? Can I have, some healthy boundaries around me that says, this is this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to move forward. So, for example, another example, say your manager calls you up and says, right, you need to walk this weekend. And you're thinking, well, already made plans. Also, what's going on? Now you have a choice, right? What do you want to do? You can say, well, it's a one-off. Let me see what I can do. Or you can bring in your truth. As I'm saying it, I'm feeling that this is not exactly the right example, so you may discard that. And let me just very quickly think about another one. Um, so, again, what I'm trying to say is that resistance is when we are moving away from our natural path, from our aligned path. And it's where, when someone said, hey, let's go out, and we're like, no, don't wanna. Or let me just take a moment to pause. And so another example that one of my clients just suggested is that when friends may be suggesting that they meet up for coffee, and all of a sudden she feels that she needs to go out of her way to do something. So yeah, maybe that can be considered people pleasing. It can also be considered conflict avoiding. It can be considered so many different things. But here again is the thing to highlight and put a few post-it notes and whatever highlight marker around is that you are doing something that is not in your flow. It is not in how it feels right. So the example with the coffee, a friend says, "Hey, let's meet for coffee," and she says yes. And now all of a sudden he's right, but you need to come and pick me up. You need to pay for it. You need to, let's go 5 miles out of town, whatever, 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 whatever. And so the question is, how do I deal with this? How do I make sure that I am in flow rather than in resistance? And now is the question is that so what would feel right? What would feel right for me is that if we both agreed a day, sure, we can agree on a day that suits both of us, and we can meet somewhere that is suitable for both of us. It's not that, you're suggesting that I need to pick you up and I need to pay and I need to do everything. And now when we look at the whole of the relationship, instead of me coming 50% and the other person coming 50%, now all of a sudden they're coming 20% and I'm supposed to be doing all the work. I need to do all the effort, all the challenges I need to take on me. So in this kind of a case, I can say, actually, what is suitable for me is that I'll come 50%, you will come 50%, and then we will have a really nice time because we are equal. Now, what happens if the other person say, "Oh, I really want to meet up, but I really have no money." Now it's my choice if to say, "Well, do you know what? No problem. I'll pay for it this time or whatever." But it's all a question about expectations, and it's all about how do I feel about everything. Now, if I'm in resistance, I will say yes to everything that they suggested and then hold a grudge and be really annoyed that I was made to do something against my will. We have to remember that no one, can really make you do things against your will. It's actually how you explain things to yourself. And so if you say, well, I have to do it because otherwise they will never speak to me again, this is fear-based. This is full of resistance. This is a lot of trouble. And if you say, I do want to meet up with this friend, but I am not willing to now travel miles out of my way or have to pay for something that I didn't budget for, or really don't have the feeling that this relationship is equal. So then I have to go inwards and ask myself what feels right. And then I can either make a suggestion, hey, let's meet this time or that time, or let's do it another day, or actually say, doesn't feel right for me right now. Um, I had a friend once, and she said, "Oh, I did I did something for her research," and then she said, "I need to have an interview with you. Can you come into town?" And I live outside of town, and I was like, "She's only given me between 9 and 5 for where the meeting can take place." And it was on a working day, and it was, you know, and I said to her, "I'm really sorry. It was such a short notice. There was only 2 days that she given me the choice." And I was like, "I'm really sorry. I can't. I'm working, and I can't. I really can't." And I suggested that maybe we can do it on Zoom, or there was other opportunity or other possibilities. So from my perspective, I did what I could. I couldn't start canceling meetings and so on. It was not realistic. If she said, "Hey, yes, we can meet later on in the evening," that would be a possibility, but it wasn't. So I came my 50% with all of my openness and flow, and suggested what I can. But when there was this block, I was like, that's everything that I can do. So now it was up to her. She could either try and find another solution, or to say, well, okay, it's you know it is what it is. How do I feel about it? I feel fine, because first of all, I didn't you know cancel everything to do something that really kind of landed on me last minute. And also I was okay with the way I explained things, because I really couldn't, right? It was very last minute, and there was only 2 days, and there was so many limitations. So everything was not in flow. And so I just needed to find my truth and find my flow and say, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't. And that was that. Now, from her point of view, I'm sure there was some, disappointment or frustration, but that's the question, right? How do you bring things into reality? Do you only set things that are very strict and have to be this way, which of course is resistance? Or do you say, right, let's now discuss together. Maybe we can do it over the weekend. Maybe we can do it later on. Maybe there are different things. But when you say, right, these are the only choices, then you are in resistance, in a sense, or at least you are not in flow. I hope that makes sense. I definitely understand that this is a little bit confusing, and really there's so many different examples, and so many different possibilities. Now, you might look back on your life and think, well, actually, so in that case, was I in resistance, or was I in flow? And the important thing here is to be kind to yourself. So first of all, there's no need for judgment. The ego doesn't need to come here and say, well, I only did that because they were, as the ego always try to protect you. Always makes you feel like a victim, always trying to tell you that you were the right, and you were in the right, and everyone else was in the wrong. So if you do happen to look back at life and say, well, in this instance, where was I? Try and find a way to learn from that, because what happened happened. You can never change the past. But what you can do is change how you extrapolate from that. What do you learn from that? What do you understand about yourself? I always talk about how, yes, I used to do people pleasing all the time because of everything that we know about people pleasing. It's that thing of, if you don't do it, you will not be accepted, not won't be loved, not be invited again, all of that stuff. So if I look back at the times when I was doing people pleasing, I can look at it with a cringe, or I can really see how at that time, at that moment in time, my belief system was that I needed to do that, otherwise I will not receive the love and friendship and so on. So I can't judge myself for that because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do better because I didn't know better. But I can look back and I can see, okay, so at that moment, this person said, do the, or asked me to do this, or maybe even I volunteered to do something. And now I can say, okay, so if this thing happened again, how would that be? How would I react? How would I respond? What will I say? Will I say, yes, I'll do it? Or will I say, I'm sorry, but no? Remember also that all of this is part of a journey. We are all on a journey. We're all the time learning new things. And so it might be that someone says to me, oh, can you do me this favor? And I'm like, this is so unfair because I know that you could do it yourself. But then I say to myself, in the bigger scheme of things, what matters most? Is it the right battle for me to pick right now to say, do you know what? Stuff it, I'm not doing it. Or can I say, well, I know that you are not coming your 50%, and I know you could have done it. Now what do I do? And sometimes I can say, actually, here's why I'm not going to do it. And some other times I can say to myself, I know what is happening and I still choose to say yes. So it's okay. Everything is okay. In the bigger scheme of things, everything is always okay. So, if a friend said, oh, come and collect me for coffee and all that, and I do my calculation, right? And I say, okay, so if I say no, I'll miss out on having this conversation. I just want to insert a side note and say that I strongly believe that things come your way for a reason. And so if if all of a sudden this person came and said, hey, can we meet up, but can you pick me up on the way? I can be resentful, like, why do I need to do that? Or I can say, well, how come? How come this opportunity to meet with this friend has arrived at this moment in time? What is there that when I go there, this person will bring me a piece of my own puzzle, something that I was looking forward to, something that I didn't even maybe know I needed. Something is a gift for me. And in the same way, what I bring them is a gift, a piece of their own puzzle. So when things come up, yes, I can immediately say no, don't want to do it, or I can be curious. And then I say, okay, in the bigger scheme of things, I do want to see this person. They are my friend. I haven't seen them for a long time. In the bigger scheme of things, it doesn't, it's not a big deal for me to go out of my way and collect them. Whatever it is, I can explain this to myself and find the thing that would bring me into flow. Because if I always in resistance, I will stay at home and never go out. It's nice for sometimes, some other times it's not. But the point is really to go inside, find out how you feel about it, find out the reasons why, what makes you do this thing or another. Is it because of fear? Is it because of resistance? Or is it because of something else? And now really the invitation for you to find your flow. So I hope it makes sense. But if it doesn't, please, leave a comment, let me know, because we can definitely have a conversation and continue these things, because there's so many different layers to everything. So it's not always about, this is not in alignment with me, I'm going to say no, because that brings resistance. Something comes up, let me weigh it up. Let me see, am I coming to it from fear, or am I coming to it from curiosity? And these questions should actually help you make the decision of how you move forward. When you're in resistance, you bring in stress, resentment, frustration, all of these negative feelings. But when you are in flow, it's opening you up. It's like, wonderful. I get to go and see my friend. Yay, wonderful. Okay, so let's go on with that energy. I hope it makes sense. Like I said, leave a message if not. And thank you also for watching. My name is Einav Avni. I'm an alignment coach and energy healer, and I work with people feeling stuck mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So if you want to have a conversation either here on YouTube or privately, then please find my messaging and leave me a message, and we'll get in touch. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the day.